All right, so government laws and regulations. All right, so these are two different philosophies, and you'll see this change. One thing that the executive branch of our government gets to do is they get to change the names of the presidential directives. So, one president leaves, another one comes in, they decide to clean house. Another one leaves, new one comes in, decides to clean house. So it's interesting to see the difference. And this will take us right back to basically the beginning of security, meaning post 9/11, the new world of post 9/11, where everything is security oriented. So government likes to begin things, to declare grand new programs and causes and national objectives. But good beginnings are not a measure of success. What matters is in the end is completion, performance, results, not just making promises. And that means a lot to me, because you hear people all the time going, we work so hard. But guess what? That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how hard you work in life. It's what you do. What you get. What results did you have? I can go to work every single day and twiddle my thumbs. And so, we worked hard, but did you really get a lot done? So there's that going on in the background. Performance, results, not just making promises, but making good on promises. In my administration, that will be the standard, right? The minimum or the rules from the farthest regional office, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that changes with Barack Obama. My administration is committed to creating an unprecedented level of openness in government. We work together to ensure that the public trusts and establish a system of transparency, public participation, and collaboration. Openness will strengthen our democracy and promote efficiency and effectively in government. And so you will see differences in the different presidents. So just keep that in mind. That's where your background comes from, especially anything that comes out of the executive branch. Because the executive branch, they make the regulations. They regulate things, they control things. As opposed to Congress, they pass laws. Laws and regulations are completely different. And so one thing that's helpful is when you go through all these federal documents is to be able to separate them into which ones are laws and which ones are regulations. Like, for example, Sarbanes-Oxley. Is that a law or a regulation?
It's a regulation.
Sure?
No.
It's a law. It was Senator Sarbanes and Senator Oxley who produced that. And so that's some of that fundamental, just knowing what side of the house this is coming from. So this is where basically the people say, hey, we got a problem with this, we don't like X, Y, or Z. They go to Congress and they pass a law that says, do it. Then you have things that are regulation oriented, like, for example, the EPA. They regulate things, or like environmental protection stuff. You have, all right, so legislative history. You have the Privacy Act of '74. So what is that? Do you know? Look it up. Lab. 30 seconds. Google it. Privacy Act of '74. And I'll do it too.
Your personal information.
What is it?
Protection of your personal information, social security numbers, stuff like that.
Yeah. But still look it up. Privacy Act, 1974. And for most of this stuff, you can just hit the Wikipedia on it if you want, just to get the quick, 30-second soapbox speech on it. So, the Privacy Act of '74, U.S. Code, public law as opposed to regulation. Code of Fair Practice that governs the collection, the maintenance, the use, and the dissemination of personal identifiable information, also labeled as PII or PHI, healthcare information or identifiable information, about individuals that is maintained a system of records by federal agencies. So anything that the federal government collects, maintains, disseminates, they basically have to protect that stuff. They have to keep it private. So this has to do with basically confidentiality. So why? Why do this? Why come up with a Privacy Act of '74? What's the value of that? This is that why. Why do we need to do this? Why do you think Congress would make a law that says we're going to keep stuff private? What was the fear? What was the concern? Why did the people say, hey, we need this?
Big Brother?
Yeah, it had a lot to do with the Big Brother. The federal government is going to keep this stuff. What are they going to use it for? Who are they going to give it to? Are they going to sell it to somebody? How are they going to use it? So let's make sure that they keep it private, as in preserve your individual privacy.
But it also applies for private sector too. I mean, your doctor's office and your, that have your social security number as a means of identifying you and such that regulates what they can do with that information.
Close, but this is where we get to start ironing out the rubs. You said the word regulation. It's not regulation. These are laws. Second, healthcare versus government. In the private sector, healthcare would be covered under HIPAA, healthcare privacy, as opposed to something like Centers for Medicaid and Medicare, which would be a federal system, which would fall under not only the Privacy Act of 74, but also HIPAA, right? Because it's a federal system controlling it, not just a private sector controlling it. See the difference? Right. And it would be a law as well. So a lot of this had to do with privacy. Each agency that maintains systems of record shall, upon request by an individual, permit him to review the record and have a copy made or any record. So basically, it's what is the federal government keeping, and are they going to protect it? The exemptions. And this is just to give you an idea. I'm not really going to, go over the whole thing here. But the European Union, that would be outside of the scope of it, because it's not just that. Anything national security also would fall under different laws and things like that as well. And notice, let's see also privacy, digital identity of data, privacy, and then civil liberties. And that's the tie-in of the concern and why the people said, oh, hey, so you're going to collect this stuff. What are you going to do with it? Okay. So just a quick Wikipedia, just to get the big idea. So that's Congress legislation history there. Then you have the Paperwork Reduction Act of 1980. What does that do?
Not much.
Right. That was 19. Was it 80? It was 80. Yeah, 80. All right.
Is that what you keep it? How long you keep it? Or how you keep it?
Close. Gave the authority the collection of certain information to the Office of Management and Budget. So who's the Office of Management and Budget? Judicial, executive, or legislative?
Executive.
Executive, good job. Also the Office of Regulatory Affairs. The authority to regulate matters, again, regulate. Notice the word regulate comes up under the executive branch. Okay. Regulate matters regarding federal information, establish information policies. Things like tax returns. So what this basically means in the big picture is that, hey, the government's now going to have electronic systems. They can, and instead of you mailing in your tax forms every single year, can you submit them electronically? All right. How would you be willing to accept that? So certain things can have equivalent. For example, we have digital forms. Okay. All right. Next one. Let's do Computer Security Act of 87. Computer Security Act of 1987. Notice this document. What's interesting about this document? It was probably typed on a typewriter. All right. Maybe a little antiquated. All right.
Seems like a telephone.
Right. Might as well have come in. All right. So Computer Security Act of 87. Purpose. Congress declares that improving the security and privacy of sensitive information in the federal computing system is in the interest of public interest. hereby creates the means for establishing minimum acceptable security practices for such systems. So why do you think something like this would come up? Why would the people say, hey, we want you to create a law, Computer Security Act 87?
Hackers?
Generically, sure.
Again, would that fall under Big Brother with government coming in and monitoring what I'm doing on my computer and or?
Not so much there. Okay.
Well,
You got to put yourself in the mind of 87 here.
Yeah.
Communism.
Is it also to keep from just probing information?
Not limited to federal workers, but
Well, any.
yeah, the government's going to keep these records. What are they doing to protect it?
Right.
Right? And so that protection is gauged in terms of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So some of the key words here that's important: minimum acceptable security practices. That's another name for something else. What?
Standards.
You could be a standard, or it really could be a baseline too. Yeah, real close to that. Okay. So minimums, it can be a standard, but your initiating starting point of that standard would be the baseline. Okay. Without limiting the scope of the security measures already there. All right. So let's see. Standards and guidelines. Notice the keywords there. The rules based off of recommendations. So, hey, oh, great, the government's going to do this. Where are they going to get the recommendations from? They got to make them, right? Welcome to NIST, National Institutes of Standards and Technologies. And the NIST 800 series is basically our guidelines for that. Every agency must have a security plan. Why?
One, to get to the standard, to the baseline. Two, to maintain it.
So what? Who cares? Let's say I don't do it. Then what happens? I don't feel like doing a standard. Government says do it. Who cares? I don't feel like it. What's it matter? Ask your questions. Think out loud. So any computer system that contains sensitive information, you have to have a security plan. In that plan, it's going to define certain things. Why are we doing these?
Standardization.
For the purpose of what?
Easily managing them.
And who's going to do that?
I am.
No. If I tell you to take out the trash, right, and you don't do it, then what am I going to say?
I'm grounded.
Why didn't you do it? I need to hold someone
Accountable.
accountability. It has to do with accountability. You want to hold people accountable? Well, you need standards, rules. You need to find roles and responsibilities, and you'll get one step closer to accountability. In my opinion, I think accountability just goes right out the window with a lot of the stuff that happens, especially when people move from position to position. I think if people were to actually be helped, you want to pass a law and spend $1 million and you don't do it, you got to reimburse that $1 million, as far as I'm concerned, because that's the way it happens in my own life, right? I borrow money, I lose it. If I borrow your money and I lose it, I have to pay you back. Well, in the government, if I borrow the money and then I move on to someone else, you're going to hold accountable. So we're planning to get to a standard, but ultimately accountability's got to be defined. It's the head of each agency who has ultimate accountability. So if you want to go to current events, just to fast forward to basically today, look at Operation Fast and Furious.
Our commissioner
Why?
was on.
Air Holder?
No, at customs. He was on. 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 He
I did?
as of
Ah.
January 31st, or December 31st.
I didn't
It
get
was
much of
what?
that.
U.S. Customs Commissioner resigned as of December 31st.
Oh.
I don't know, they didn't, and they did not say it was because of Fast and Furious, but we lost an agent in line of duty because of it.
Right.
Somebody should have.
Right. So why do you think Eric Holter is under the microscope? He's the one accountable. In the Department of Justice, he's the one accountable. So I don't know the specifics in your example, but if the highest one up, those are the ones that are responsible for this stuff. All right, those are the ones to be able to basically can lose it. All right, so basically, let's see. Keep our computer systems safe and ultimately defined accountability. Then you got the Klinger-Cohen Act of '96. This will get a little easier later the more we do this. Cohen.
This to do with acquisitions, the way in which the federal government acquires and the life cycle of IT.
Good job.
So-
Acquires, uses, and disposes
Yeah.
of IT, focusing on resource planning, investment control. So again, why? Why do we have this? Why come up with something that basically said, let's go back to the verbiage. Why go back? And it's this why that I hope you understand this stuff. But if I'm wrong on that, please help me. But designed to improve the way the federal government acquires, uses, and disposes of information. That's the key right there. Governments typically aren't very efficient. So let's come up with something and
A standard to improve efficiency.
right, exactly.
But has it? I mean, I don't know. Like you said, the acquisition process still is.
A lot of this is extremely antiquated, and so here we are in like 1996. So one thing that I'll help you with this specifically, and you have to kind of go back to history for this, is you have the information age and you have the industrial age. The industrial age and the information age. In the industrial age, we manufacture stuff. In the information age, we manufacture information. So a lot of our manufacturing, automobiles and anything else, other countries do that stuff now. We basically are in the information age. So I think that while the acquisition process is extremely, I don't know, it's like dysfunctional. I watch what I say.
Torturous.
It's antiquated in a sense. In the industrial, here, let me give you another example. In the industrial age, things were built to last. So literally, if you were to buy a car, you'd want that in the earlier days. You bought a car. The reason why you bought a car is because you wanted to keep it for a long time. It was an investment, right? Because minus 50 years prior to that, people weren't driving. They just wanted faster horses. They didn't want cars. They just wanted faster horses. Well, in the information age, things are not built to last. Things are built to change. So notice in the last 10 years or so, how much information do you receive now versus then? It should be astronomically more information getting fed into your brain now when things change every day. I mean, you got to process information. You used to read things in the industrial age, you would read the whole thing. It was a publication, your books cover to cover. Nowadays, you skip and highlight chapters and just go right to the meat of things because it's more efficient to process it, so you can get on the processing the next thing. So this is 1996. Things are changing so quick nowadays, year after year after year. 1996 is, in the information age, that's history. 1996 was like a long time ago in history. Think about how much information has come out or could have been processed, from 1996 until now. It's night and day in between that. So you wonder why the process is inefficient. It's really kind of antiquated. It's probably robust from the industrial age, but antiquated from the information age. Two different points of view in time, two different ways to look at things. But good job. Yep, that has to do with acquisition. Homeland Security Act of 2002. That's the easy one. What's that one?
Created the DHS.
Yeah, that was the creation. So,
And reorganized, I don't know how many different agencies as a result.
so this is the effect. What was the cause?
9/11.
Well, a little more than that.
Lack of communication between the agencies.
The root systemic failure, the root cause. So now we have some sort of capacity to share information. Whether that happens in the most efficient manner, I'll leave that up to the bloggers to discuss. But nonetheless, let's, brought together 22 separate federal agencies to establish Department of Homeland Security. And it's been amended over 30 times. So think about this. Go back to the very last one that we did in 1996, Clara versus even in 2002, which is still considered kind of back. Look how fast things are changing. That's multiple changes per year that's happening. Still a reorganization. So they're still, in my opinion, getting their act together in that capacity. Lots. There's established an executive department, United States, blah, 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 etc. So now, if you understand the why on that, that's the easy one. All right, then you have FISMA, Title III, EGovernment Act. Let's pop that one open. FISMA, EGovernment Act. And is this the one I want? Yeah, Title III of the EGovernment Act. So this is a very important document to go to. You can grab it from NIST.gov. The real document is the whole thing, but this one just focuses on Title III. So this is actually a better document to reference when page 1 starts with Title III. Otherwise, you got to go through like 3/4 of the way through the document just to get to Title III, because again, there's multiple titles. So, what's the purpose? Federal Information Security Act, Information Security, purpose, to provide a comprehensive framework. That's a keyword. That means what?
Ice cube tray.
Ice cube tray. That you can substitute different standards out of if you want. For ensuring the effectiveness of information security controls over information. Provide a mechanism for improved oversight. Acknowledge that commercially developed information security products offer advanced, dynamic, robust, etc., solutions. So they're basically acknowledging that the private sector does things a little bit more efficient than the government, and that those technologies can be adapted by the government. Also, write this down, note this right here, the section. Keywords, this is what you need to focus in on. And actually I can zoom into this a little bit.
Talking about the integrity, availability.
Yeah, exactly. That's your IAC triad. So everything basically that we do is created in terms of integrity, confidentiality, and availability. So, would you like some free points on your practice exams?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's come up with keywords. I'm just going to abbreviate them. Sometimes this is called the IAC triad, sometimes called CIA triad, not to be confused with Central Intelligence Agency. So your IAC triad, you got to know these keywords. So let's do a little brainstorming session here, and I'll let you guys develop them on your own, and I'll fill in the pieces. We'll start with confidentiality. Think of all of the keywords or synonyms that have to do with confidentiality.
Privacy.
Good one. Write that down. Write all these down. This is important later. Just write them down for now. Give me another one. What words? If you had to have a conversation with someone about confidentiality, what words would you use?
Secure.
Generic, but sure. A lot of people use the word secure, meaning confidentiality secure. But it could be any one of these. You can secure it by keeping it available too. But we'll leave it as secure. So how would you actually keep it confidential? If you had a document, you want to keep it confidential, how would you do it?
Password protected.
Encrypted.
Okay, well, I wouldn't do encryption. All right, and I'm going to put AC here because that's a form of access control, but that could be also in CISSP, the model that we use to enforce confidentiality would be the Bella Poggio model, but to enforce integrity would be the BIBA model. Both of those can use passwords to protect things, but I would just generically believe it. And I heard another word begin with an E.
Encrypted.
Exactly. Encryption and decryption. What else? What encryption algorithms would you use? That's the generic sense. Let's go specific. How about DES?
AES.
AES. 3DES. And I'm just going to ... for there. You can fill any encryption algorithm would fall under that category, but instead of writing 50 algorithms, you get the idea. What else? There's got to be a couple more. How about secrecy? So on a DoD system, how do I say this? I'll give it away. On a DoD system, we do something to everything to basically identify it as confidential. We use what? What do you have to go put on each little thing? Begins with an L.
Label.
Label. So anything that ends in the word label. It could be data label, device label, security label. Generically we call them labels, but the specific versions of that have changed over time. So basically anything that ends in the label. Label is a good label. How about clearances? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Greg? Agree or disagree? Clearances, which means that if you have a clearance, then the data that you access has to have a,
Need to know.
well, you could do need to know, would be the other need to know, classification. Agree or disagree?
Yes. Agreed.
Okay. That's a pretty good running list for now. Let's do availability. All the keywords you can think of for availability. If you wanted to keep your data available, what words, if you had to have a conversation about availability, this is Security Plus 101.
Uptime.
Okay, fair enough.
Response time.
Uptime. And so how would you keep hard drives available? What technology?
Redundancy
RAID.
of hard drive.
But you could use redundant too. How about mirroring? Would that work? Does mirroring technology keep things available? How about clustering?
Failover.
There you go. Failover. Or and then technology, you could say active/passive technology, right? Master, slave, primary, secondary, active, passive. If you want me to repeat any of those, all you have to do is ask. That's a good idea. You get the idea, right? Okay. And then integrity. This is the one where people goof up on. So if we had to have a conversation about integrity, what words would you use in that conversation? You would prevent things from having an unauthorized what?
Access.
Change. Access is the control between that, to control who can change it, right? And these are all the words that I gotta iron out, right? Because if you're reading your practice test questions and you skip these keywords and you mistake confidentiality versus integrity, wrong answer. You have to focus in on these kind of key words here to understand where they're coming from in the question so that you can best decide on the answer. This is where literally the fruit falls from the trees if you know what you're looking for. So these words are the clues, right? And this will help you dramatically on your practice test. Change. You want to prevent things from begins with an A. Say it out loud. Altered. Or how about begins with an M?
Modified.
There you go. Modified.